the outreach consultant at Erickson. Before we get started, I think Kaylee's going to introduce herself. I want you to know we have a full team of people that are here. 2 of us are going to give the primary presentation here tonight, and then when we get to question and answers, which I already was talking to a few of the neighbors, I know there are questions and comments. We have other team members here that can answer those questions. So when they come forward, we'll have them introduce themselves as well. I'm a local consultant based here in Denver. I'm a Colorado native. I've worked on a lot of projects in your neighborhood, know your neighborhood, but I'll never know it like you all do. So maybe before we get to Kaylee, can I just ask all of you, are all of you in the immediate neighborhood just to the east, or maybe throw out your neighborhoods that you live in?
Waverly.
Waverly, of course, yes. Everyone in Waverly, which is great, very good.
Waverly.
Waverly, good. Anybody else outside of Waverly? We only ask that just really to describe and kind of frame our answers, if somebody has a specific question. So anything changes, let us go on that. Kaylee, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
I'm Kaylee Gillespie with North Design. I help with planning and entitlements.
Great. This is our full team that is joining Smith Group, SG, HKS, TPC, our company, and CRL. So these are the team members. We have representatives, I believe, from every one of the firms and specialties, so we could be sure and answer questions. Folks, I do know we have a few. If you want to come sit down, we have a number of chairs up front if you'd like to come join us. Folks, we're just getting started. We'll go to the next slide, please. So again, we're starting here looking at, and I'm going to kind of stay out of the way of the slides and come over here. We're going to look a little bit at the site. You see phase 1, it really is an outline of almost our entire parcel for Erickson. But you all know this, again, as I just said, about your neighborhood, about your space as you live, most of you just to the east of the site, where it kind of shows number 6 there. That's the park down in the gazebo. I think you all know, you can see the half-mile increments, those circles that surround the site. You certainly know all of the amenity, all the attractions that are around the site. Of course, today we're at Butterfly Pavilion, but it really shows the open space, Big Dry Creek, and all of the existing parks, commercial, and kind of the surrounding areas. So we use this map always to frame where it is, but again, I know a lot of the questions today will be from Waverly Acres and from the eastern neighborhood. Next slide. Folks, just a little bit on behalf of Erickson. Again, we have team members here from Erickson, so we can answer very specific questions about who we are and how we work. But this gives a great summary of Erickson. Been in existence for about 42 years. They actually have 32,000 residents. That's in 25 campuses. We call these campuses. We view them as a campus. We develop it holistically. We plan them holistically. The reason I would say this as the 17,000 employees, how important that is, each one of these campuses, we have learned how to improve on the site plan, how to improve on the living environment, and really how to partner with our residents. So I do want you to know that we certainly have a Colorado facility. We have a great deal of experience in Colorado. Erickson does as well. But we want to hear that from all of you, hear any feedback you have. But this gives a little bit about how Erickson and who they are and how they approach this development. Next slide. So what is a continuing care retirement community? You will hear a lot of people say CCRC, okay? So that is the initials of that. We really put this up for a couple of things. We are more than just housing, right? It's a very regulated industry here in Colorado, but we are partners, we are a life care, we are care providers, we do provide housing, and we really provide, we think, a lifestyle that's there. We put this up to really reinforce that the state of Colorado actually has a very specific licensing process for CCRCs, and so we go through that, we're regulated through that process. So just want to kind of put that in place. We'll talk a lot about our residents, and we hope many Westminster and regional neighbors move into this facility. That was a lot of our initial discussion of how to really plan for this site. Colorado, if you have all followed, you all certainly know the market. The #1 housing typology we need by a factor of 5 over any other is senior housing. The state demographer talks about that what has happened is we continue to just age in place, and that has really hurt affordable housing and housing turnover because people are staying in their houses, not moving to facilities like this, because frankly there have not been these type of facilities. So we think this is a tremendous market. We think this is a regional facility and really does benefit Westminster, Broomfield, and all kinds of regional communities from a senior standpoint. So that's a little bit about CCRC. Any other questions, Erickson can certainly provide more detail. Next slide. This just shows a little of that. I think we try to describe the lifestyle. We probably have some operators, some of the team members here tonight, if there are other questions. I think you all have probably more of a neighborhood viewpoint today, so we'll probably focus more on that, right? This is a lot of that. It is a holistic lifestyle that we're bringing. We believe, as all of you do, that we are in one of the most glorious areas. There is incredible open space. There are trails, and really tying into that and augmenting that. One thing we've always said to the Butterfly Pavilion, and thank you all very much for allowing us to host the neighborhood meeting here today, is that we also become one of the most remarkable engines of volunteers and community spirit. Our seniors love to be part of the community, and we know that a lot of them will actually be members and work here with Butterfly Pavilion to provide those services. So that is something that we know is part of that. We can talk about our scholarship and all the things that we do, but that's a very big part of, these are seniors that want to be in the community, want to be incredibly active, and really provide vitality in all the surrounding communities. Next slide. This shows you a little bit. I do want to just kind of stand back on this because there's a lot of material here. And when you go through a project of this size and magnitude, and I do want to say this is a very large scale project, really because of what the site is. This site was always going to have a larger campus on it, right? Some type of a campus development. That is why this site is still here, and the plans that have been. So a lot of times there have always been, what will that site, what will the campus be? This is the city of Westminster's planning process, which is one of the most thorough processes that you could walk through. And I just want to show you up here, you can look at all the individual, you see we are over there, but this is really what is important here. We did the comprehensive plan, so we did a comprehensive plan amendment, we took that to the Planning Commission and City Council. We did a comprehensive plan, rezoning, and preliminary development plan. PDP, if you hear us say it, preliminary development plan. Those three documents there, particularly the PDP, are really the regulatory framework for how we move forward. They put in place a lot of the guidelines, the heights of the buildings, the percentage of open space, primary, a lot of those points were encompassed in this. We went through all of that process over the last 3 years, had a number of neighborhood meetings, got a lot of neighborhood feedback on that, and we took it before City Council was approved. Now we are in the ODP, where it really becomes very site plan, building plans, designs, architecture, all of the finishing elements, all of those final elements. That's the process that we are in. I still want to point out to all of you, it still goes through a very iterative process from the referral agencies, all of the different groups that give us comments, and it ultimately goes before the Planning Commission and City Council again. So it does do that, but I do want to say that there are some approvals. There's a lot of the guiding, a lot of the, we call it kind of a zoning envelope. What can happen in the zoning envelope? That is in place. Now we're filling in the specific details of that. Next slide here. I will just point out, along the bottom there, we think it's a requirement that community outreach goes through the life of the project. It has to happen. I'll be honest, we had a couple of meetings and we had much smaller attendance. So it is wonderful to see all of you, I'll come to you in just a second, to see that, but it is great to have you here, and your involvement in that process is very important. And I'm just going to say we have probably about 5 or 6 more slides. It might be helpful just to work through them, and then you get the first question. Is that okay? And we can come back, we'll remember the project timeline, we'll come back to this question, or this slide for your question. Next slide, please. This is the site I'm going to hand off to Kaylee here, because you want to hear from a planner and somebody who's processing the application. Again, we're going to really focus today a lot on Waverly Acres, Your View, Semper Gardens, the historical name there. I think now Wilder Ranch, right there on the north, right? And thinking of that, but Kaylee, if you could basically describe the site. We've also drawn in the water treatment. That is not part of our site, but it's certainly in the neighborhood now, right? And so understanding how they relate. Kaylee, go ahead.
Absolutely. So outlined in white here is the overall site for this project. We are dedicating 10.35 acres of open space as part of this project. In that dark green color, the west side of Creekside Drive. We'll be putting in Creekside Drive as a part of this project to connect from Westminster Boulevard to 104th. That was all set during the PDP process. The 59.66 acres of buildable area, that's what's left for the campus to occur on. We set some parameters during the PDP process, and that light green color up above is a view shed. That's a no-build zone for that light green. So no vertical buildings can go within that area. Within this blue area here is a height sensitivity. There's a limitation to 4 stories within that area. And then here, I'm going to make sure I get the view corridor. There's a 2-story height limitation within that view corridor. All of this was set forth at the time of the PDP. We worked through some trail connections. We heard at past neighborhood meetings. That was very important for Waverly Acres, for residents to be able to get and use this future loop road trail that we'll go into in a little bit of detail here in a minute. Next slide. All right, so during our PDP process, we really worked hard and intentionally worked with the community, worked from the outside in. So that kind of set our framework. Understanding the surrounding parks, the trails, Highlands Creek, view sheds, topography, and the adjacent neighborhood before getting to this point that you see here on the screen. As we transition to the official development plan, that's the process we're currently in right now, we've been able to refine the actual building locations, the internal street network, the pedestrian connections, and the amenity spaces shown here on the screen. The plan has continued to evolve through collaboration with city staff, our neighbors, the Butterfly Pavilion, and the project team. The layout has been guided by several key factors: the needs of the demographics of our future residents, comfortable walking distances between the buildings, amenities in the site's natural topography, as it slopes greatly towards the west. Together, these elements have established the framework for the building placement and the circulation network. At the same time, we've continued to design within the parameters established during the preliminary development plan process, including the site access along Erickson Way. Our first access is up to the north, and then our secondary access is right here. We continued with the height sensitivity zones and the no-build view sheds. So this outlined in this blue color here, this is a 4-story height limitation on this side here. And then the no-build zone in the red, quite tall on that side. And then this was set forth during our PDP with no more than 2 stories. We're abiding by that. And we are also adding 2 more view corridors. One to the north that does not have any buildings within it today, and then one to the south, same situation, no buildings in it today.
Folks, there was a question over here about, will this be available? It will be. We're happy to share. Just be sure that you signed in. We're happy to share the deck with all of you. So you can certainly take pictures, but we can share these images back as well.
The amenity program has been intentionally distributed throughout the campus, so residents have convenient access regardless of where they live. The amenities include pickleball, bocce courts, community gardens, pollinator gardens, meditation, and sculptural gardens, outdoor dining spaces for residents, plazas, a pool deck, an outdoor yoga space, a dog park, and flexible lawn areas. This creates a variety of opportunities for recreation, wellness, and social interaction. And finally, when you step back and look at the site in its broader context, one of its greatest strengths is its relationship with the Valley Park systems with direct access to the Big Dry Creek Trail, Highlands Creek, and the adjacent park amenities. This location provides an exceptional setting for the Erickson Senior Living community that encourages residents to remain active, connected, and engaged. Next slide. Next, we're going to walk through some perimeter reviews from Waverly Acres. These are sketches very early on, so things will evolve throughout this ODP process. But up here on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the key map. That's the yellow. This is looking towards the West End Hotel and the mountains. We are not providing any buildings within that no-build area. And then you can begin to see kind of how the grade shifts up towards our site. We are not touching anything in this area at this point in time. So that's as it stands here today. Next slide.
That's an open space on the High Point.
We'll come back for questions in just a few minutes. No worries, we just have a few more.
Sorry.
The question was, is that the high point, is that what it was? But Kayla, you kind of framed that, that's the existing grade that is there today. Yes. No worries.
All right. The second image is a little bit further south between the two view corridors. And here you can begin to see the significant grade difference from Waverly Acres Park to the proposed Erickson Senior Living community. Next slide. And this third image is the furthest southeast of the site, looking slightly north. And you can begin to see how the buildings have been placed, the openings that naturally happen throughout the campus to fit comfortably within its surroundings. Next slide. Next, we're going to walk through a few different architectural character slides here. This perspective highlights one of the outdoor dining spaces, which is framed by an inviting garden and designed to activate the pedestrian environment along the street. The landscaping creates a comfortable, park-like setting for residents to gather and enjoy the outdoors. Next slide. This image here on the screen looks into the campus's interior courtyard, which has been designed as a central gathering space for residents. The lower level features one of the community's dining venues for residents, while the upper level provides a more casual lounge and bar that overlooks the courtyard. A central fireplace serves as the focal point, creating a warm and inviting outdoor space where residents can gather, socialize, and enjoy the campus throughout the year. Next slide. This perspective is looking towards the indoor pool and the adjacent pool deck, one of the community's key wellness amenities. This space is designed to provide residents with year-round opportunities for recreation, aquatic classes, exercise, and relaxation. Next slide. And here we're looking just to the west of that prior image, and you can see one of our enclosed pedestrian bridges connecting two of the buildings. These bridges allow for residents to move throughout the campus comfortably year-round, providing the flexibility to enjoy outdoors or stay protected from the elements while accessing the community's many amenities. Next slide.
Very disruptive. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Next, we're going to walk through the preliminary phasing plan, which may evolve in the future. Although the first phase of the official development plan includes the 12 buildings shown in pink and blue here on the screen, they'll not all be constructed at once. The areas shown in blue are representative of the initial construction phase, while the buildings shown in magenta illustrate how the campus may expand over time as the demand supports future development.
This feels a little bit like that slide, the blue or green dress one, like I don't know which color that was, but just pointing out again, the blue area or green, as you're seeing it, that is all, the whole map here except for phase 2.0 is in phase 1. But we're showing the green and blue, that's what happens first, kind of the trunk infrastructure, the primary access point, and then you see the buildings around it. This phase 2.0 is the continuing care facility that obviously happens once you have residents and as you come into that space. So just understanding that's the only portion that's not in phase 1. So we can answer questions about that. But again, moving almost all of the campus forward in phase 1. Next slide. Thank you.
Helpful to like dim.
All right, we've talked a lot throughout this presentation about the importance of pedestrian
Yeah,
connectivity.
I can't see it.
And these are
Thank you.
very active residents, and it's important that we understand the adjacent trail connectivity.
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Here's a look at the trails within a quarter mile and beyond of the campus, this darker green color. So this is Westminster's master trail, right here on the screen. Next slide. To get a little more granular, this begins to show our internal pedestrian connections. Okay? We're proposing a 10-foot wide multimodal trail surrounding the site in the green color here. This will have a protected bike lane and a pedestrian area. This will also be open to the public. There will be a perimeter fence on the edge that will have a gate. It will be open dusk till dawn. So at these stars, people will be able to access this perimeter trail here. And then internal to the site, we have 6-foot proposed walks. And then we will be constructing here in this blue color, the trail connection along Westminster Boulevard, to kind of complete that connection. Next slide. All right, throughout the design process, we've worked closely with our neighbors here at the Butterfly Pavilion to develop a comprehensive pollinator network across campus. Their input has helped shape the landscape design to support the pollinator habitat while creating beautiful gardens and outdoor spaces for residents to enjoy. The circles shown on the exhibit here, which I know they're a little bit hard to see, these here, those represent our approximate maximum foraging distances for many native pollinators. Our pollinator gardens have been strategically distributed throughout the campus so pollinators can move easily from one habitat to the next while creating a connected network rather than isolating those planting beds. The areas outlined in the dark green identify the primary pollinator habitat nodes, and the navy areas represent the highly activated landscape nodes where pollinator-friendly plantings are integrated into the spaces where residents will be every day. This approach allows the landscape to serve both the ecological and the community purposes in supporting biodiversity while enriching the resident experience and also being water-wise. Next slide.
So maybe a couple of things here, again, on the community benefit. This is a slide that we showed earlier in the process. The volunteer and partnership opportunities, the public land dedication. City of Westminster has a very robust PLD, we call it, public land dedication process, where depending on the number of units or acres, you have the requirement, we as a developer, to make that public land dedication. So we are paying a combination of fees and also dedicating parkland. That's the trail loops that you saw around it. So we're adding in those additional trails. We're also, we believe, and what we heard from the fire department, that Creekside Drive that connects Westminster up to 104th, that was actually a very important connection from response time for fire. They run their analysis, and that was a trigger point. There was a very hard point to make and avoid this intersection right out here. So that is an important roadway connection, and so that is also being implemented as part of this as well. Next slide here. I know we're anxious to get through. So we're going to come back, and if you don't mind, Becca, maybe going back to this slide. Folks, we're going to take question and answer. As I said, we have a number of people here to answer any questions. Again, we have the PDP in place. This is maybe a good one to just start from again. And now we're working through the official development plan, the ODP. So I heard from some folks like, we want to talk about the height. We're more than happy to talk about some of those, the height and the corridors and how do we work together on that. But some of the parameters are already in place, but let's go through that. So I promised you the first question, so please go ahead and we can go to the slide you want.
Thank you.
Sure.
If you don't mind, will you refresh my memory on what your role is in this process?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Marcus. I'm a land use and community outreach consultant. So
Last name would be helpful.
Sure. Pachner. Pachner. And I'm a consultant, and I present on this. I presented on the PDP and lead and help along with Nathan and others the community outreach.
And you also presented on Semper Gardens
I have. Yes.
development.
That is correct. Yes. Yeah.
So my question is about this timeline. I live in the neighborhood. I live in Waverly Acres.
Sure.
And I was not aware of anything until this was in front of our council members. And so I'm trying to figure out how people were notified about that process.
Well, we'll go through, and Kaylee can probably go specifically through. We did, of course, the city has a notice area. We expanded that notice area greatly in all our notice. We actually held many additional meetings, maybe 4 or 5 community additional.
Do you have the dates of those?
Sure, we can share this. I don't know if we have them here, but I'm happy to provide that. We actually have a slide, if it's okay with you, that we presented to City Council about when we did those. So we did that. We actually hosted one of the meetings or two of the meetings here. And we also did walks through through the park and met at the gazebo and walked on all of that.
Was anyone in this room invited to those meetings? If you were, please raise your hand. I'd love to talk to you.
Never heard of it. Never heard about it.
But you did the presentation
Yeah.
for Waverly Acres, so you knew that our neighborhood, you had all that.
Sure, to me, but yeah, no, listen, so folks, we'll go back through it. First of all, I'll just readily say, there's many familiar faces in this room from our meetings along this. So there's been a number of people that are in this room that were at those previous meetings. We also worked directly with Waverly, so completely know the neighborhood. We provided all the notice of that. It was also posted on the site. All the signs were there. We have gone through a planning commission hearing and a city council hearing.
About the
So-
meetings, or just that it was in process? 'Cause that's
About the
what most
meetings
people-
and the hearings.
But not the park
Actually,
walk.
Yes, yeah. Pardon?
The park walkthrough.
That was a neighborhood, we went directly to the HOA and we worked with them.
There's no way.
Sorry, the person who organized that, we did, and we walked through. So I hear you, if you all are saying,
But you said you invited the neighbors to a meeting.
so I just want to point out something. The list that utilized today's meeting is the same list we've notified throughout. That's negative.
Therein lies the problem.
That's right, so
I never got a notification.
that is the process.
Nobody, you have a room full of people, so you can say that's true.
And you've been at these meetings, yes, sir, you got a question, go ahead, yeah.
For the record, I will say that the notices do come in pretty nondescript envelopes from ours design. And, you know, if you're not reading your mail closely, it might be easy to miss those
Fair
things.
point, okay.
I know that a year ago, so as some people got in here late, I know you made reference to this, that one of the first meetings here had about 3 people. at
Yes, it was
I
a very
think.
small
I
meeting.
think my mother was one of those people.
Yeah.
I was able to make it to the focus group that you all had over at the Westin where you talked about, you know, the room units and that kind of stuff
Sure.
about a year ago. One of the comments and questions I had about this timeline
Yeah.
was that the ODP was submitted to somebody in April.
Yes.
Who was that
Sure.
submitted to, and how can we all kind of, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I looked for it, I couldn't find it.
And how do you look at it? Kayla, if you'll answer that, and then we'll come back to how you've been looking at it.
Absolutely. So we submitted that through the city's process. That's the official development plan. The city has already provided their first round of comments. So our next step here was to have this meeting so we can progress for a second submittal. Trevor can probably provide you, our planners here today, the direct access on how to download those plans from the city's website
And is that the city staff versus city council?
to city staff, correct? Yep, we work through the city's standard review process. So city staff and then any third-party reviewers review this during the ODP process. We can't have any significant comments before getting planning commission and city council scheduled.
And I just want to follow up. This timeline is, I guess, by our application. That's what moves the process forward and then has been neighborhood meeting as well. They want to see our initial submittal, so that's why you see the order of that. So yes, we have made the official first submittal of the ODP, as you see there. As Kaylee said, we will make a subsequent submittal of the city, and others want to hear that feedback as well. We certainly do as well. Yes. I think you had a question over here, please. Yeah.
I have a couple.
Sure.
So you have the trail system that's going.
Yeah.
And then you have this, yeah, thank you. Well, can you go back to?
Go back to the overall
Yeah.
trails. Yeah.
So we actively use that trail system.
Yeah.
And so my concern is now you're adding another light to get to the trail system. In addition, you're having, I don't know, how many people do you think still live in there? 1,300, 2,500, like how many people? You're gonna have cramped trail system. So how are you guys planning to mitigate that?
Yeah, so, Kaylee, if you want, can we come back to your second one? We'll come back on the
Yeah.
people and the connection
Yeah.
of that.
So then
Let's talk about the trails first.
My
Is that all
other
right?
question
Yeah.
is around the prairie dogs.
Okay, good.
Because there are a ton
Yes,
of
there
prairie
are.
dogs on that land.
Yeah.
And when you guys did Semper Gardens, pretty sure a lot of them came over to,
They're starting to get.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep,
So
it's-
what is your plan?
Great.
to mitigate that?
Okay. First question, maybe just framing, are we interrupting or making another crossing to the trails with the light? Any interruption of the existing trail network?
the light at 104th and
Yeah,
Creekside.
that's not there yet.
Right.
So.
That is part of this proposal. So we will be putting in crosswalks across 104th at that lighted intersection.
Yeah, but we're bikers, so that's a whole nother. So is there gonna be connections on Westminster Boulevard to get on the little directory?
You'll have this connection that exists up there today, and then we have this connection down here that also exists.
You can't get on right there.
At the underpass, we will be putting the sidewalk.
We're making
that
that
you can connect.
Yes, absolutely. This is, you can see, you know it very well, that existing underpass, that's kind of that gold block there. That's the connection, those expansion that we have to make to that there. So you can, through the loop, make that connection now.
And are you connecting, you said there was like gonna be a gate, is the trail system?
Yeah,
To
just,
the east gonna be heavily populated now because there's not a lot of people that walk that trail?
yeah, so just so we, and I thank you so much, the gates are only on our side. That would be after hours, so we can't gate, we never would gate the trail that you're on today, the existing trail.
But yours are closed on to dusk, or dusk to dawn,
That's,
whatever you say.
that's correct, from dusk to dawn, yes.
So they're locked. So,
Through the night, there would be a fence on it because it's a property, yes, so there would be
well, I
that.
understand it's a
Yeah.
property,
Yes,
but just the gates are closed.
it's site, just as if it were a university or campus, something like that, it would be. But you are correct, we are not putting any gates, nor would we, on public trails that are there today.
Right, but those are not considered public trails.
Right, but I'll just say, sir, to counter this, all of this that is added are not trails today. So we're adding all those trails from dusk
That are
to
not
dawn.
public.
But you're not showing all the existing trails.
Yeah.
You're missing one against your eastern edge.
Sure. So we'll go, listen, let's all, I respect it very much. We'll go to the existing one if you want to see the master trail map for the city. This shows the trails. Those are there. If we're missing something, we can add one.
You are
in,
missing.
But we're not changing it. So that's perfectly fine. So I apologize if we missed one.
There is another trail, but it is not part of the trails in the recorded Waverly Acres open space trail map. It is just evolved over time. So we understand there is another trail there.
Which affects the views that you presented again too, because that's at a higher elevation.
Dramatically.
I will say the city does maintain the trail that you're
You have a
missing.
3D rendering? Give a 3D rendering.
Sure. Hey, folks, listen, we can all get through those questions. We can all do it one at a time. If we go back and forth, I'm not able to answer those questions. So if we can do it when I call on, yes, sir, I'm happy to call on you. You go ahead. Your question was on the,
First,
Can you
sorry.
do it?
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah. Actually, the second part of yours was the connection, right, all of that. Then the existing prairie dogs, what's the process that we go through as the site is developed?
We will be going above and beyond on the prairie dog mitigation. The city does not require us to fully remove them, correct, Jacob? Like, that is our own duty.
What do you mean fully remove them?
We'll be working to relocate them.
But you're
Well,
not-
you'll
That's
be
not-
working,
Sir,
you
sir,
have,
if you, no,
okay,
No.
these answers are.
no, they're not at all. Let us answer the question, we have a follow-up.
I'll shut up and then we'll talk it again.
That's perfect. That's a, and I would never say that. You can ask any question you want, but just to
Well,
follow up.
but-
There is not a required relocation program in the city of Westminster. Some cities are requiring how you mitigate or remove prairie dogs. There's not a policy there. We are going above the policy and are going to be doing that and relocating prairie dogs. I don't know all the details of that. That's something we're working through now, but we are going to expand the program over what's there.
And how are you preventing them from?
Yes, so sorry. By the way, we did outreach, we didn't build Semper, we're no part of that at all. That is something that the city inspects all the time and should be part of that. I couldn't agree more with you, that is a process. Do they move from there? That is something we will note, the city is recording this. That's an important thing to manage during construction, how we mitigate any spread of or expansion of the existing prairie dogs.
Because people already
That's process.
seeing the migrating due to the water treatment
Great. I know
towards the Waverly Acres neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
I get it, and I just want to underscore something here that is, I know I can just feel a little bit of the temperature. Development was going to happen here, so any development was going to trigger something.
Understood.
So we're going to work
This is how
through
you
it.
approach
It's completely agreed, and hopefully that program of expanding that and doing that is something we can do and relocate that. So I completely agree. You were next, go ahead.
Are you going to share, you have, the city have 3D renderings with organizations?
Sure.
Yes, there's the 3D.
To include the waiver.
Will they be
What we're saying is 3 corridors.
Yeah, so will we share, are there renderings available? Yes, we're happy to share those. They're in the submittal as well. We are actually trying to provide those perspectives that you saw from Waverly Creek. As you know, the slope that's
I
there.
don't want to see artistic renderings. I want to see the actual flyover.
Right. So we'll drop that into those existing.
And not from the
sites.
lowest point in that area.
Understood.
That's similar.
Just so everybody remembers, if you saw, I'm sure you walked in a little late, we showed it from 4 different view corridors on the web.
Yeah, I was at the city hall
Right.
initial, and the viewpoint that you guys used was the lowest part in the park, looking up onto the highest elevation as to where your view line would be. That's very unrealistic when you take into account the homes
Yep.
that are up in Waverly Acres, and there's one site.
Yeah, show it from Sheridan. Show it from, yeah.
So from the trail, where they can get
We appreciate it. So I know the city's here, so we'll give some different perspectives than what we have as well. Yes, we're hosting the meeting, the city records this meeting, and here's the comments. Yes.
So I have a question since we're talking about elevation. So we're at the end of the cul-de-sac, and so, right, it goes up. And then when it gets up past our open space, it's way up high. And that's where you're planning on putting the 4-story, which looks like 5 stories to me when you showed that one picture, because you've got the open space or whatever underneath that you're putting stuff in. That totally blocks our view. So why are you putting a 4-story building right behind our houses? Could you not put that at our western edge where there are no other houses over there, and then put the 2-story buildings closer to the neighborhood so that it doesn't block? Because we have the whole view of the mountains.
Okay.
You're giving us a little tiny corridor view that I have to sit in my backyard and turn my head to look to
Sure.
see the mountain and.
Yeah.
and, you know,
So I appreciate it. This slide, and hopefully this helps, I don't know. Keila, if you want to walk through the 3 view corridors here, and then the north-south, the 4-story height sensitivity zone, that was a very specific request from city council to have that sensitivity zone. That is the lower height to have that. So as you can see, I just want to, if you all could see this box here, right there in blue, that's the 4-story sensitivity zone. You're saying, is that in the right place? But I'm just pointing out where that is, right? And then we transition over to 5 stories from there. The other thing is then looking at the other view corridors that we have created. And Keely's going to walk through them, and then we'll come back to your question about why not shift that to the west, okay, of the site. Go ahead.
So up here on the north, that's our no-build view shed. No buildings can happen in this red outline where that arrow is going. To help preserve some of these views, we studied this very extensively.
So the question was, or the comment was, can we put it in relation to the existing? This was studied on the corridor, really looking towards Long's Peak, right? And along the existing trails it wraps around today. It is more of a northwest view, but that shows that, and that was studied, where is it most open to? The first question about the trail connections. The trails are there are no buildings there today, so keeping that an absolute no-build area, that's the thought of that. So I don't know, for perspective, I think this is Eden, right? This is the most northern house that is there, and then that's,
Eden runs north-south.
right, and that's the top of that.
But we're at the end of the cul-de-sac
Right.
on that part. Where the new building, where the new houses are.
We'll pull that out, we understand. Yeah, we can pull the
gladly do
view.
that.
Yeah, no problem.
Quite frankly, right now, I think our street was right.
Yeah,
Okay.
quite
So,
frankly, the
great.
way you have it set up right now,
Yeah,
16, 12, 13, 11, all of those block out views to the mountain,
okay,
especially if they're at 5 stories.
okay, so we'll come back, yeah, got it. So if we can come, go ahead.
So, is this
Do you want me to point out where our houses are?
Yes, it is.
I'll point it out.
We know right where they are. We see it there. We're just showing this as perspective so you can see the surrounding neighborhood. So I know you know it, but that shows the buildable area. It shows this corridor here, right, Kaylee? And that shows the wrap trail.
What is the width of the trail? Of the
They would have
corridor?
said 2 stories?
We're really not helping each other here. We really do want to answer all these questions, and you have a follow-up question. So if we can go back one more slide and let Kaylee finish, please, the other two view corridors that are on the site.
So part of this ODP process, we have opened up to provide 2 more view corridors. Here, pedestrian bridges will be allowed as stated in the PDP, because there's pedestrian bridges to connect every single building. But other than that, it is wide open through those. No building can be within those areas.
What are the widths?
Big yellow,
Yeah.
north of that.
This is absolutely, there's no buildings there through there.
That's a road through there.
It does, you are right. It's a view corridor from a neighborhood, though, if you're looking at the perspective, those are openings. What was very important, really based on your comments, what should be right, and from a neighborhood perspective, looking to the west, is they said, we want you to protect east-west views and align your design of the campus to protect as many of those views as you can. I want to say something, I always get myself in trouble. Our view study on this, we did a very detailed view study. And because of the height, not from just the lowest point, but from all points of Waverly Acres, a 1-story building blocks the view. And this was, no, just let me finish. And this was designed to be more of an employment flex or an industrial building. We all see them today. We see those type of buildings. They don't have view corridors. They don't have landscape. They have landscaping certainly, but they don't have breaks. They don't have different buildings. They don't have openings. They don't have pedestrian sites. So that is the way we've really designed it. We think we can open up the porosity, those view corridors of the site. So that's how we're doing it. Yeah.
What are the widths?
Yeah. Sir, so I appreciate it. I'm going to come back. The question is on the yellow, specifically in the yellow, is that what you're asking, the street width or the different areas? All 3 areas. We're going to get that, and I'm going to come back to you. They're checking it on the submittal, okay, so we give you an exact answer. There was a question back here, and then I'll come back over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Please in the back, yes.
So I have a few questions.
Sure.
I was not notified of these other meetings, so I may have missed this previously. But what type of traffic study have you done for the 1,300 units that will be happening?
Yeah. That's great. So we'll go through, and can I just add something on that you added? Your question was so good, because your question was about the number of people we will have on this site. Mary Ann, generally, we will have what's the average number of residents per unit, right? Because we do have some 2-bedroom. Mary Ann, if you just introduce yourself, and then maybe the number of people that will lead to. You'll have to come up here just so you can do that.
21 independent living units.
Yes, right. Those are units, number of people, yeah.
I'm Mary Ann Navarro with Erickson. I apologize, I had to walk in a couple minutes late. I had a family matter I had to contend with. But our average occupancy rate for our independent living units, over time, our historical average is 1.3 residents per unit. And that sort of decreases, I think, as longer the residents live there. And again, the average age of our residents is 80 years old. So they're not particularly, there's a lot of very active members, of the communities, but they're not driving typically as much as somebody that was working. And they're not able, their mobility is a little bit more limited due to their age.
So I wanted that specifically for the first question about how many people will use the trails. We actually think we're providing remarkable amounts of trails for the usage that we will provide as residents, really adding to that. I think also then to your very fair question about the traffic study, Jared can talk about, we did a full traffic analysis. It is based on the number of units and those populations, and the population, how many trips it generates. So the improvements here and the light, for instance, at 104th, those are driven, those are, no pun intended, based on that traffic study to say what we need to do to mitigate any of that traffic impact.
So with the size, a facility this size, you're going to have a lot of people that work here. So
Sure,
are they
that is
also
absolutely true.
included in that traffic study?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to do a full study of all of our employees, people coming and going, AM and PM traffic, and different things like that. Mary Ann said something very important. We utilize a shuttle system because many of the residents don't drive themselves. The other thing that is so important, all of us that take our kids to school or go to work usually at 8 to 5, we study AM and PM. This does not impact hardly at all AM and PM traffic. These are folks that are not driving to work at 8 a.m. So that impact, I also will say, as an alternative to what could be here, we think this was a remarkable decrease in potential of traffic in the area. You asked to follow, yeah.
I used to work in Balfour.
Sure.
And most of the people that I dealt with were 90 to 95.
Okay.
And most of them owned their own car and drove and were quite independent.
Great.
So you're talking, and I believe, what age can you move in here?
You can move in.
The earliest you could move in is 62 years old. However, our experience is the average age of our residents is 80, 81 years old. Typically, they might move into an independent living unit around 77, 78 years old.
We have some really good, you said it on Balfour, we have great data because we have a Colorado facility, so we really track the number of trips, right? All of that, the impact of some of those. So we have really pertinent data. The city also does something they call a background study where you study traffic for all of the surrounding developments and the growth over the next 30 years. So that has to be added in as well. Yes, sir.
In addition to the flyover drawing, I would like to see a drawing, pre-flyover of the same elevations of the field, and then put your renderings on top of it. I don't know if you drive and see all of that.
Okay.
I had another question.
You were asked about the width?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong here. Roughly 80 feet, and 67.
With,
Yeah, the width of those view corridors, this is 67, and those are roughly 80 feet.
That's at the widest point or the narrowest?
The narrowest.
Narrowest point. Yes, sir. Right here.
Okay, so, first of all, I believe your initial renderings only had one view corridor going east-west. I could be wrong on that. So I appreciate you guys adding more.
Your time is up. No. That was a perfect comment.
But I am curious, you got your view corridors, and then you also have the sensitivity zone where you're limited for 4 levels. But that 4 levels also is not necessarily referring to your height, so you could still make it as tall as you wanted. But, so my general question is, how do we get our own personal residents to be a part of your sensitivity zone or your view corridor? Because I don't know if, you're talking about how you're really opening this up for everyone, but I don't know what percentage of the actual residents you're affecting, you're actually maintaining some kind of a view for.
So you're saying, how do we as neighbors participate that or give feedback on that?
Like how can we, like for those of us that want to really advocate for, getting our view back, how did this view corridor get decided?
Sure, listen, it is I understand, and, this was planned for some type of development. I guess the thing that I would note, and I understand your point very, very well, yes, we changed comp plan designations. What did not change is the height limit allowed on this site. The site that was going to be developed could have been developed. It's had the same height across this site for all the time that this site has been there. So before us, before anybody else, in the comp plan, that designation allowed up to 65 feet. So what we believe, maybe incorrectly, is that a residential building in a campus-like setting, that we're able to actually design to protect view corridors and provide these things. So maybe we need to try harder, maybe we're missing something, tell us that. But I just want you to know, this site was always going to have this type of height on it. We're trying to do it the way to augment those views. So we hear you. If we can look for any more, we were told and really focused on that open space to really focus on that northwest view because it is completely unimpeded today. It is wide open today.
Oh, by who?
Yeah. The city, the view corridors, the studies, the
The
analysis,
city planner,
everything you would do.
Jacob, or who?
City, yes, and as we discussed
Staff
with
or
them.
whatever? I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
it's gonna be helpful for me
It's
to
actually-
be more specific.
It's actually in the comp plan.
I
Sir.
think again, as you mentioned, we did add additional view corridors, but the original locations that we worked from were from the city's adopted comprehensive plan. And I think that dates, the views dated back to about 2013, and then it was adopted
Or is it
again.
the new one?
Yeah, was it the new one to be carried over as well? But
Everything doesn't carry over.
I understand.
Yeah, it was adopted again.
Okay. So now embodied in the 2040 comp plan. that was
Mhm.
adopted.
When was that? When was that updated last?
Last summer. Last summer.
Okay, was that just recently? But so is this for that one? Correct. Yes.
we're gonna go over here, because you haven't had one, then here, and then here. So sorry, did I miss you out of order?
No,
You're-
you got
okay.
me once.
Go ahead, you're first. Yes, please.
I want to talk energy grid.
Okay,
April 21st of this year, the city was, had a meeting with Excel Energy.
yeah,
And Excel says game over. The 3 substations that provide energy to Westminster
Sure.
are maxed out. Semper, Federal Heights, and Urbana.
okay.
In light of that, and the fact that you have, what, 1,500 residents plus staff,
Sure.
why is this even an issue?
Yeah.
The city is being sued right now for $10 million by a developer because inability to perform on the energy grid.
So, yeah, no problem at all, and we can talk about the process we're going through. We have been working very intentionally with Excel for the very issue that you brought up. We have to have power as well, we know that. So we have gone through a phasing plan with them and when service could be provided for our first phase. And that does, we have a timeline with them where we think that matches. I do want to say, we all keep saying 1,400 units. That is at the full build out of our site. And if we go back to those phases, that is all of these buildings that are there. So very fair point. Yes, Excel is a tremendous challenge in every city because of the metro area.
I don't even know why we're discussing it.
Yeah, well, I would just say, and to kind of go through that, the great challenge of all of this, the question about traffic and parks and all of that, you have to know the plan first before you can say we can provide power to that. So that's the process we're going through and working with them. So that's how it goes. Yes, sir.
Can you say a little bit more about her question about
Sure.
what Excel has actually said before I get to what I want to
Yeah,
say?
so we can say, I don't know the meetings with the city, I don't know that, I'm sorry, but I can share our perspective and our discussions with Excel directly with them about this space. So,
Got the rate notice that it's going up again. It's going to be in conjunction with all these developments. So Excel will raise their rates to provide these developments, and we will see our rates go up to provide these developments. It's
I don't think
that-
one person in this room is going to live here.
I won't give the Excel answer on that at all, but that, I understand. I will say from a sustainability standpoint, from a energy usage, from a water resources, all of those things, this is an incredibly efficient property. So compared to other uses or other types of campuses that could be there, or that type of things that was allowed in the comprehensive plan, this is a very efficient use around this.
And we have applications. We have an electric application and a gas application with Excel, and we've been working through the design process. It'll still be some time, but we do have some infrastructure upgrades
What does that mean? What you just said, a gas application?
for gas service.
You submit an estimated load for the project, the Excel designs any extension to serve the project.
I'm sorry.
Jarrett, will you speak louder?
Just come a little louder
These
here.
are
Sorry.
Jared, introduce yourself and come to the
Jared
camera,
Grant,
please.
civil engineer on the project. So what
Great.
you do is you submit design drawings to Excel with your anticipated loads. They then take that and see if they can serve your site as is, or if they need to extend facilities. Gas, it's a non-issue. Electricity does require an extension. They're currently going through that design.
Thank you.
Yep.
If you, and then over here in the blue.
Can you go back to the slide with the view corridors?
Sure.
On it?
Yeah.
I think, a lot of us in this room knew that there was possibility for something to be
Okay.
built here.
Yep.
And if it was an Amazon warehouse, it would not have been 65 feet tall. It
Okay.
would have been different traffic. I certainly know in the preliminary development plan and some of those view corridors looked like they went through buildings. So this is also great that, you've got these wider open space things. If you said at the very beginning, along that view corridor, the buildings would be limited to 2 stories in height. Can you say more about what that building actually looks like? If these are residential things, like, are we talking that it's, kind of like this, where there's a 5-story behind a 2-story, or are they separate buildings entirely in that area?
The building will have to step down to 2-story max within this area, okay? Nothing above 2 stories can be built in this red one. That was set forth during the PDP process, right? So this building will be a 4-story on that leg, and 4-story here, and drop down to a 2-story.
nothing in it now.
There's no,
Same with the
There's a two-story building right here. Like, this is building is like this.
What's the height?
Where the big is, is-
12,
Covered by the
13,
lake.
11.
Yeah.
What are the heights? on
Sorry, if we,
the-
what was the question, sorry?
What are the heights on 16, 12, 13, 11? That whole corridor between
Yeah.
the lower blue and the upper red.
Yeah.
That's our.
These,
That's our view.
these in this blue box right here are limited to 4 stories, right? So those buildings in there, and then they have an east-west view corridor that further reduces those in the east-west view corridors. So I can't give you the specific of every one of those, but the height limit there, the 4-story. Why did we do 4-story there instead of on the other side? Because if your view has 5 or 6 stories first, you can't see the 4-story building. So we allowed the 4-story, and as we all look out to the horizon, our eyes go up. So you want the lower buildings here, and that allows the view to reframe, so you get those views back. So that's what we're focused on. If we would have flipped it, we would have lost all those views. I agree with you, by the way, Amazon is not 65 feet, but it is 45 feet, and it is the entire perimeter, and there's not the view corridor across it. So that's what changes there. So any of those, that is a building that has that doesn't allow or accommodate view corridors whatsoever. Yeah, I'm sorry, I owe a couple, and then I'll come back to you. You were first, and then here.
Now it's compound, but you mentioned you had discussions with Excel and you're working through it or whatever, but
Sure.
then you discounted, any interactions that Excel may have had with the city. How do we get that information?
Yeah, sure. I did not discount at all. I don't know the information. I was not privy to those meetings. So I wanted to be sure and say, I was not answering at all on behalf of the city meeting. with
Okay,
Excel.
well, but the city is here.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, it's our meeting, so we're asking that. That's what our job is to do that. What we do in any submittal, any applicant submits, and all the referral agencies, which includes Excel, every transportation, fire department, police, roadways, they all tell us what we have to do. So we've designed that. So sir, that's the process we're going in. I know every city in the metro area is struggling with Excel. That's why we have done this so far in advance to give them a utility study so we can build our first phase.
Okay, and then a follow-up, since you mentioned that 2-story view corridor in the red, however, you've got one of those buildings covered with a label.
Okay.
It says RB12 and
Yeah.
CP11.
Yeah.
That seems to be a little deceptive.
It's
In the red, it's 2
I read
stories.
maps for all my entire life, and I would get in trouble for that.
We need you to help us. We'd love that. I will just say, in that red, I'm so sorry, folks, and you are right. In that red corridor, it is limited to 2 stories. That is actually a requirement in the ODP. It is protected, right? Or, excuse me.
But it doesn't say cover up the
I get
building
it.
with a label.
I get it. You got it. That was our mistake. That was our mistake. for sure.
And you could put a scale on that map, and then that would help everybody a lot.
Okay, that's great. That's a very fair comment. Here and then there, okay? Yeah, no, I cannot. You're next. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Ma'am, go right ahead. I apologize. Yeah. No, you're great.
So, now I'm gonna get back to my understanding that any pedestrian bridges are gonna be at the 2nd story, is that correct?
No, they vary throughout the site because the site slopes throughout the site. So they'll be at different elevations throughout the campus. I can't give you an exact.
So they will
like,
not be on the
2-story.
2nd floor of every building, they will be on who knows what floor of every building.
They could be at ground level, second, third.
Actually, they go up with the third chicken.
They do not.
She does our architect.
Nothing above the 3rd level.
And that's just because of the grade. And typically they're glass, windows. They're basically still transparent glass.
They're there.
Yeah,
They're the ones
Those
that are going
people
to
are paying, they're gonna get the views, we're gonna get nothing.
But if you sell your house, you can get it.
Yeah.
You can pay $3,000.
So,
You can afford that, right?
So, in addition, why are you building an additional trail that parallels the city's trail? What is the width of that from your eastern property line, that trail, to the property line?
it's a
The
10-foot.
actual, excuse me, your trail on
Sure.
the eastern property line to the actual property.
Yeah.
What
For
is-
the very astute question that was asked earlier, please don't put all of your population on our existing trails. We are adding trail mileage to the site. So we are doing that, and that is a 10-foot multi-use trail that wraps the site. So we are doing that to forever protect the neighborhood, existing trails and population that is on there today. And that, by the way, when we mention that PLD, that's a big part of public land dedication. You hear, sir, you're a few away, so go ahead. Yeah. A few away.
All right, so if we go back to where the buildings were actually numbered, I believe the highest point, I'm going from memory here.
Sure.
Sorry.
It's got slow and then it goes.
I gotta do a lot.
I believe around RB 2.4 and 2.3, that's roughly your high point. And that's where you've chosen to put where you've not chosen to put any height restricted buildings. And so I'm just curious, I mean, because perspective wise, the mountains are quite far away, so you're not going to gain that that immediate advantage that you're talking about, having the 2-story first, followed by 4, followed by 5. So it's just in general, you're disrupting you're doing the most disruption of view shed.
I don't think you signed it, but if you
having
want
the
a copy of
buildings
this
on the highest
presentation,
point.
do you mind just giving us your email?
So I was
And then we can give it
curious
to you guys.
why that was the decision.
So and then I don't know if anybody wants to share any perspective. Jared, is that the high point on the land, by the way? Is that a fair comment? I'm not questioning you.
Everything generally drains from that.
Everything drains north from there. So yes, that's generally means that's kind of the high point of that. Sir, I'll give you a very direct answer. We were trying to preserve as many view corridors as possible. And the way you do that is what we would call almost a grid pattern to provide an east-west view. So we really focused on those east-west views and the primary open space connection that was protected and identified in the comp plan and in the new comp plan. So these 4, and including the one in red, City Council said you have to. So I understand your point. I guess I would say though, that this 4-story, this protection really protects that, then you're at a 5-story. That extra story, I'm not sure what that changes or takes away in that, right? We're really focused on the corridor of that, so. And you are right, as you look up this, that does change that perspective for sure. So we'll try to give some better rendering so people can look at that. Yes, so sorry, I'm forgetting my order. You're next, yeah.
This is really mainly just for the scene's benefit, but by show of hands, how many people, this is the first meeting you knew about? This is the first meeting you knew about?
Great, there are 8 people that raised their hand to say this is the first meeting they knew about.
Okay.
Any others?
I also spoke with David Vaughn, and said that the height wasn't originally still about. A year ago. But they did the Toll Brothers, they were limiting to 22, 26.
So the question here, the comment from this gentleman was, he spoke to Dave DeMont, who was a councilman at the time, that the height wasn't set in stone. The height was not set in stone until we went in front of city council and the PDP was approved. So all of what he was saying was absolutely true until the PDP is adopted. Even then, they said, come back with the design that makes it better, and that's what we're trying to do. So hopefully we're getting to that, but you are right, sir. But I will just say, before this was set in stone, before it was this use, the height on this site forever as a property
If you don't
was
get this
65.
presentation, then I'll make sure that you're on their mailing list. Does that work? And feel free to give it to your neighbors.
Okay. They had plans that were approved and zoning that was approved and a comprehensive plan
Yeah,
that told exactly what it should be.
okay.
Every single time, typically, developers come in, they ask for more, change it.
Okay.
The planning department asked Semper to keep it. You guys changed it anyways, the council approved to change it. Why do you even bother to do these comprehensive plans that you change constantly?
Well,
And cost us our property.
Maybe.
Why is there this never-ending height?
Well, maybe we can answer that from our process. If we were to
Waste
ever
of our money.
change, which we're not going to change at all, Kaylee, what would be we'd have to go through an entire modification, an amendment, go back to city council, all of that. We are not doing that. We are not doing that, and council actually put a height sensitivity zone on this because of all of your feedback in a very positive way. So I'm with you, we're not gonna make a change, right? I don't
But
know.
if you guys didn't ask for more every single time you go for a development
Yeah.
and fight it and go to council, you waste our council's time, you
Understood.
waste our time, you waste everything.
Ma'am, we're not
And you
doing
get
that.
your
So
way.
we're not doing that. So this is the height limit and we're not going back for a variance on
For
that.
today.
Yes.
Just continuing that
You can-
point.
Yeah.
I know
Sorry,
Marcus,
I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
you and I were both at city council
Of
until
course.
2:45 in the morning, the
Yeah.
night that they voted
Yeah.
Yes.
to approve this.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy McNally, then the mayor,
Yes.
you know, said that, like, I don't do above 3 stories.
Yeah.
She still
Yeah.
voted in favor of the zoning change to consider this type of development.
Sure.
But for those of us in the room who are truly concerned about the height, you know, you've been talking 5, 5, 5 the entire time, like, realistically, I imagine there's also some formula that you need X number of units in order to break even on this. But how do you, I don't know, like,
So
do
here's the
even more?
Yeah, the easiest way, I mean, we had a number of units get approved here. If we go less height, we get smaller view corridors that still block it. A one-story building blocks your view corridors. So in any, it does, the study shows that it is unequivocal
You got a
that
bridge,
that
you got a
blocks it.
building in
No,
your
no,
corner
sir,
with
so I'm
two
just
stories.
saying, if you do the same amount of units, so you would say just do less units, right? But if you do the same amount of units in lower scale buildings, you actually get rid of more view corridor. You actually hurt the view. It's not the difference between 3 and 4 stories, it is this block. So we're opening up the view corridor, and we have done that intentionally by having some higher buildings that actually hold those units. So that's how we think of it from architecture. I don't know if you agree, but that's the philosophy of that.
Except you basically block 25% of the northern end of Waverly Acres because you're right between your blue and red corridors where you have 4 and 5-story buildings. Yeah.
Block it all.
You're blocking all of it.
Yeah, there's no question, I'm not fighting that we change views, block views, there's no question about that. I think we're trying to do it in the most responsible way, so that's the way we've approached it. You had a question in here, and then, yeah. There's a lot of blue shirts, go ahead, I can't say blue shirt.
Okay. So I don't know, like, and this won't be necessarily a question for you, but you guys are gonna have soil problems that you're gonna dig down. Is there not a chance that you could actually regrade to lower the whole entire elevation? Because you're gonna be digging down 25 feet. I don't know what it takes to abate the soil swell. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna be moving a massive amount of soil already. Is there anything that you can do as a good neighbor gesture to actually just lower the whole entire height of the property?
So, Jared, if you want to come up and answer it, yeah, good. It's
Yeah,
a
so-
fair question, yeah.
The challenge is, I mean, one, it's a balance of earthwork, and then secondly, it's just the population at this site, so it'd be 80 plus, so it's got to be relatively flat. So having boundary conditions along the entire southern and eastern edge kind of ties us to those elevations, and then as you move across the site, there's not a ton of opportunity to drop from building to building while preserving accessibility from building to building. So
Your southern campus has that drop.
So it's got to be a full story drop, and this site doesn't really lend itself to a full story.
But,
Yeah.
but down in Highland Ranch, you're in depression.
Yeah, I guess I'd say all site topography is unique. This certainly isn't that site, so we're working with a site that exists today and trying to make it accessible to residents that will be there in the future.
Part of it, they will have to haul all of that. If they take a certain amount, they've got filled. To haul that off-site costs tons of money. Therefore, the developer has to pay.
Well,
That's
and
the
I just
rule.
will say, the most disruptive part of a construction process is the dirt moving in and out. So I would actually say the disruption, I fully agree with you. So I just want you to remember what you're saying is actually where that really impacts. And I don't think it would preserve the views that we're thinking. So I get it, we are doing that. It also changes the grade of all the trails, the tension, all of the connections. So that becomes the real challenge of that. Here and then here.
I think my biggest thing, my biggest question is how much of this presentation is actually informational for us as residents that city council already approved, which will likely, because of contracts and so forth, will likely
Have you been invited to other
what
regions of the
can
city?
we as residents do to make a
This is
difference?
just I was at council
Because
as
I
well.
think that's really important for us.
Okay.
If it's something that we can't do and city council has done what they did and we can't take it back, it's not worth fighting.
So I'm gonna do something, if I may, and I'm gonna have Kaylee if you would just talk about from a planning perspective, the things the city opines on. I think you should always go talk to city council and planning commission.
Yeah, but it's bureaucracy.
Well, I'm not gonna say, but I will say, we have some parameters, but that's why I want her to answer the question about what are the things that are to be decided and what is the underlying approval criteria. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Becca, if you wouldn't mind, go back to the previous slide.
Not that one.
folks, we have about 10 minutes, by the way, where they're finding the slide, okay? And I'm happy to stay as long as you want. We have to let the majority of the room stop filming, so.
So, Attorney, go ahead.
So I'm Jacob Cosner from the City of Westminster, Principal Planner for Current Development. So that's a great question. We don't actually get asked that very much at neighborhood meetings. And a lot of people kind of focus on things that can't change at that stage of the thing. So they're already entitled for the land use. They're already entitled for the height. They have a lot of things already locked in through the PDP. I apologize if you didn't get notice for the meeting ahead of time for those other meetings. Things that are really important here are landscaping, architecture, and site design. So where do they make those connection points? Where do they make that trail location? Do they have more than one gate? What types of trees do they plant? How many trees do they plant? Where are they? What does the building look like? What's the architectural palette that they're proposing? What does it look like? Because unfortunately, City Council has already approved those other elements. If you're objecting to the height or something, they have already approved that in the PDP, and they have a right to build to that height.
Yeah, so we don't really have a say in what's going on now. It's more informational.
So again, this meeting is specifically more about like architecture, site planning, and those kind of things. And it's specifically also an informational meeting to make sure that the community has an opportunity to be informed from the developer.
We've been in Oak 20, 30 years, and you're taking all our views for a bunch of people that can.
Okay, go ahead with your follow-up.
For my recommendation for you
Yeah.
is as you guys go through this, in this process, and any other engagements you do, even outside of our community, that you expressly, you put that in the text to the neighborhood so they know what's going on. Because it's not fair to us as neighborhood constituents, like, we are all taxpayers and we don't know exactly what step you're in. We don't know when to go back to city council. I work in this type of work, so
Yeah,
I
okay.
understand this, but not everybody understands.
I appreciate it, yeah, and I just, we won't limit, we want people to participate, so I get it, but your point about process and where we are is very good. I think we can always refer to that underlying PDP so people can look at it, right, and see what it says, so I think it's fair.
Just real quick,
sorry,
I
please.
would say if you didn't sign in today, please sign in if you want to stay engaged so that we can also have another way to reach out to you that isn't snail mail, that we could email you as well.
2 questions in the back, and then I will say as long, and okay, you can have a third, but we're gonna wrap up from there. Go ahead in the blue shirt, then you, sir, and then here.
So this is off of what all the topics we've been talking about, but I have a question on the light that's going to be going on from Creekside to
Sure.
104th. Okay, so we already have the light out here and we have the light at 104th and Sheridan. Is this going to be another light that's constantly turning and we have to stop, or is this going to be done like by pedestrians crossing or what, so that it's not, we're not hitting another red light in, that short distance?
Jared, any quick thoughts, please, up here? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say that the signal timing will be dictated by the city engineering staff, so we're not quite at that stage yet. We don't have civil Cs prepared, but the city engineering staff will determine the timing for that.
Because if there's not going to be that much traffic coming out, then why are we putting it? I can see definitely a pedestrian crossing, I get that, but
There's
why
likely
should
to
it
be
be
a lot of traffic because of the fire department.
Because of fire.
They want to build, and that's.
Oh, you're going to build another fire department?
No, we did not. That is a fire connection. They studied the intersection timing and needed that. So it will be timed even more regulated because fire will use that as an access. So that is something, they tell us the timing on that. We work with them on that. Yes, sir. Sorry, you've been very patient, Ken.
I'm trying to be, but I can be very trying, as you may find out.
You're doing great.
For those of us in Waverly Acres, we are currently surrounded by 3 major development projects now.
Okay, yes.
So you're catching the brunt because the other 2 have been pains in the ass.
Yep.
So, one, I apologize because you haven't had your chance yet but we are gonna be in your face if you're as difficult as the other two developments have been.
Okay.
That said, we have had on numerous occasions in the last 2 years, topographic data collection, folks using drones.
Okay.
I have every reason to believe there will be additional drones flying to develop additional topography. If I find that those drones are flying over private property, as has happened every time so far in covering all of the former Hahn Hewitt property and City Park, there's going to be some real problems, because what they're doing, flying over private property and individuals not undercover, is illegal by federal statute. So you're on notice now, cease and desist. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, thank you. I think there's a question here.
So I have two things to say, and this is relevance to. So number one, the council meeting that this was approved at, the mayor herself asked numerous times to stop it because she was exhausted. They're all exhausted. The process, and this isn't necessarily the process of doing these meetings at 2 in the morning is absolutely ridiculous. And putting people in the council through, and then, yeah, they vote for stuff to get the heck out of there. Yeah, no, they don't like it. Nancy did not like this. She did not want this. She voted so she could go home because she was exhausted. How are we running a city like that? Then, are you guys, do you realize how you affect our properties taxes-wise? My house right now is $100,000 assessed over what I could sell it for. Last time, I fought 3 times. I finally appealed it.
Okay.
And what did they do? They move it up. You affect the people around you by now our taxes will go up again. And do you understand, when you develop, stop asking for so much. Think about your community. And think about the people that can never, ever afford to live there. And they're going to live there and have their lovely little communities. And the rest of us get shafted. And what about just saying stop? What about saying no? We don't need to make as big a problem.
I appreciate it, I understand
I'm
it.
sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
not.
okay,
But
listen, I
I'm
respect
sorry,
it.
actually. I'm upset.
I
I'm
get,
sick of this.
I think the challenge of this site, as you can see, 60 acres plus 10 acres. I will just say what was envisioned on the site before the comp plan was a much more impactful to the neighborhood, in no way that gets the same benefits of
Yeah,
a
and that
senior
should be done
community
here.
that has very little traffic,
I agree.
incredible,
I agree.
is not business and retail traffic, which is so much more, and we're adding to those trails. So we can all determine if it's good or bad. I think you actually, for a 60-acre site, may have gotten the perfect partner to be there, but we'll let everybody judge that. So I think we're trying to be.
You're a lot better
That's-
than many. I totally agree.
Maybe we should stop right there. Never get told. All right, I'm breaking my own rules. I've got 2 questions. If people have to leave, the only thing Kaylee's right. If you signed up, please write legibly, write it down. We try to get to you, we will come back to you, and we will notice the same way. Yes, sir.
So I was thinking, when you were talking, going back to the traffic light,
Yeah.
I was just out in Indiana and they use traffic circles.
Yes.
That said, they work wonderful.
I agree. Yeah.
Is the requirement